All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, January the 7th of 2022. Happy New Year, y'all. 10 a.m. meeting. Kirk, would you do the pledge and lead?
Call the pledge.
Prayer, please.
Face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Okay, Waterworks District number 7, that's Creole. So that's what we got on the agenda here to talk about and then review agenda, so.
Yes, sir. So we have everyone, I think, here to answer direct questions about it. Ms. Mary's here representing the Creole Waterworks. Also, we have 2 board members that are in the audience. Our assessor is here, Mr. Scott Laverne. He can answer questions about assessed values. And then our DA, Mr. Tom Barrett's here for any legal questions. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of present it, and then if you have any specific questions for them, then you can just defer to them, and they'll come up and they'll answer the questions. So the main thing is Creole Waterworks. They have been having some issues with their assessed values and collecting their Avalon Tax since 2015. They had a significant amount of surplus funds that has carried them through the last few years. But at the end of 2020, they were down to $12,000 cash in their account. And so as they were bringing on the water system and they were expecting people to come back and become users, it just didn't come back as quickly as they thought that it would. And so we have an issue with them. The police jury has been billing them for all of their repairs and for their salaries, but at this point, they still don't have enough funds to repay the police jury at the end of 2021. So that leads us to, what are we gonna do now here in 2022? There, and if you look at your chart, I'll go through it with you. From 2015, their charges for water were $77,000. If you fast forward to 2020, they actually did increase their user rate. It was up to $162,000. Now, a lot of that has to do with the RV parks that have come online. So there is some question about how sustainable is that revenue source. Will it fluctuate? Is there going to be a minimum charge? And that is all something that the Waterworks district can address. They can increase their user rates. They can charge a flat fee. That is something that they could maybe help stabilize their revenue source. That is something that the board hasn't done yet. I think Ms. Mary told me they went up $3 a few years ago, and then they just haven't increased their rates yet. So that's one option that they can do to increase their revenue. Avalon Tax, their authorized rate at the time that they passed the tax was around 6, and now they are up to 15.33. That is what their millage rate is for people in Creole. That is something that is directly related to the assessed values dropping. And just to put things in perspective, their assessed value right now is $5.2 million, and Cameron is $34.9 million. So that's the difference in the assessed values. Gray Engineer's assessed value is $26.5 million. So Avalon Tax is going to be an issue. You're just not going to ever collect what you need to sustain your system, your operating pay for your salaries. You would need to levy a new tax, the board would. And it would have to be something just as high as 15 mils. So you're talking about taxing people from Creole. If you want to cover your operation deficit, you would have to tax people Creole 30 mils for water. So they only have 2 employees. 2 full-time employees, and they have to manage their system. There's not really a lot that they could cut back on. It's not like they can lay off any additional employees. or shut down any service areas. So on average, their operating expenses are in the $250,000 mark. So consistently since 2015, they've been losing somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, which is why their cash is at zero right now. Their assets that they have, they could sell, liquidate it, but that means selling water wells and selling infrastructure, so then you kind of are defeating the purpose. You sell all your,
You can't do that.
yeah. So that's really what we're here to talk about today, your options. Number one, take the employees from Waterworks, make them parish employees, and they can run their office out of our office. We have a vacant spot for Miss Mary, and Logan, who's the superintendent, he works out in the field anyways. So you can make a collection spot for Creole Waterworks. The police jury would pay for the employees, but all maintenance costs would still be covered by their Avalon Tax and their charges for service. The police jury would only be paying for the employees. But to make that work, we would have to give them some police jury duties as well. They would do half Waterworks, half police jury duties. Logan could help fill in with the road crew. Miss Mary could help be an additional administrative assistant here. So that's option one. That would give them time to levy a new tax, which would be another 15 mils, and see if the taxpayers will vote for that. But you give them a year or two, take over their employees. If the tax passes, they transfer back as Waterworks employees, and they continue running Creole water system. If it doesn't pass, then we'd have to decide what to do, a year or two from now. Your second option would be the same thing, still take over their police, take their employees over, give them duties, but instead of directing the board to levy a new tax to cover their deficit, direct the board to see if they could consolidate with another water district to help offset the cost. That could be beneficial. It could help lower a lot of the other Waterworks districts, their taxes. Eventually, maybe it could get lower. They would benefit from having extra employees. So they would have an extra trained superintendent to help take care of their water district and the Creole Water District. They'd have another secretary to help fill in for billing for this other water district, and also simultaneously the Creole Water District. That would be a permanent solution though. And then the third option, which is one that I don't think anybody wants to see, is you abandon the water system altogether, repeal the ordinance, and tell people in Creole they have to dig a water well.
We can't
for
do
water.
that. We did, like we did Lower Cameron Fire District, I think we need to make a Lower Cameron Water District.
We're one parish, and I mean, there's just 10 miles in between that's suffering, we have great water in Grand Chenier, and I don't know why we can't feed, In other words, I just think it'd be beneficial to everybody if we just made the Lower Cameron one water district. And you can't tax somebody 30 meals and plus a water bill to get water. That's
That would be Grand Chenier, Cameron, and Creole. Make
one
just
water
district.
district.
We
I'm
tied
good with
in,
that.
we tied in already, except to put back the section right there at the bridge in Creole, the Oak Grove. We were, as far as fire and water, it was an interagency, Tim, mutual aid deal. If we ever need extra water in Grand Chenier, Creole, or Cameron, fighting fires and stuff. So we already linked together already.
It'd be
You know, we see-
minute cost to put that back.
Now, there's two different things though that we're talking about. Consolidating boundaries and districts and consolidating systems. Now, you can consolidate your boundary and your district, but still operate 3 separate systems or 2 separate systems. You don't necessarily have to tie Grand Chenier, Creole, and Cameron all together. And that's something that we paid for an engineer to come in and do a feasibility study and look and see what's a way to improve water and get Grand Chenier and Creole off of their administrative orders and still help Cameron out and maybe make their water better too. So
Have
you
we
can
heard
still
from
have
them?
3 separate operating systems under one district. Or if it does make sense, according to the engineer, to tie it all in, then you could do tie them all in one system, one district. You could even be creative
What-
and charge each other for water. You could do, keep them separate, and maybe you consolidate Creole with, say, Cameron, and then they could purchase water from Grand Chenier to help Grand Chenier, or vice versa. I mean, there's so many innovative ways to do this, but we need to
But
really wait
we
on our
don't need to
engineering
create
report
a
for
lot
that.
more work. Why not just
Right.
have one district and one waterworks system and, you
One
know,
board.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
They
so
can
much
be
simpler,
divided
you
amongst,
know.
amongst the whole lower part of the parish.
Same thing we're doing with the fire.
Fire, you know.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
It
the way to
works,
go.
you know, I know.
that's been a long time
People-
coming, needing to
Yeah.
be.
People doesn't want change. You
I
know,
mean,
they
yeah.
think they ain't gonna be on the board, or they think it ain't gonna benefit them.
Nobody's gonna lose a job.
But nobody's gonna lose. We'll probably have to add some, one
Yeah.
or two. But if we consolidate all that into one, it's gonna be a much better system, because we got a lot better water in Grand Chenier, which is, Le Chenier. And if we could
Always
get that to
said-
Cameron, I
Always
lived in Cameron, we wouldn't even drink the water, so.
And I always said that, there's about three things people need. They need good water, and they need good fire protection, and they need ambulance
Right.
throughout the whole part of the parish. Every person needs that. And it's just time to start
Cause you got
consolidating because of the fact of this
So-
lower part has changed so much.
So kinda getting back to it, we would take them over as a parish for right now, because it's gonna take a year or so, whatever it does to take to consolidate it like it did the fire board, and then they'll go back to work for the fire board, for the waterworks.
Yes.
Right.
You could do that if that's what you wanna do.
Yeah,
We've
We just try to make it
added
simple,
add-on.
Katie, you know, I don't wanna charge this one and, you know, all that stuff, we make it a simple system and, go
It
with
would
that.
be an add-on, and I think the agenda item would be,
And it'd probably be cheaper on the
transfer
residents.
Mary and
Yeah,
Logan
it
as
would.
police jury employees, and they continue as part of a police jury employee. They operate and maintain the Creole district
Mhm.
and direct the Creole Waterworks Board, Grand Chenier, and Cameron to consider consolidation.
Right,
Because that's what we
Does that sound
done,
okay, Tom? Yeah.
that's what we done in Grand Lake.
right.
We got all these districts compiled together, but we got one board.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same.
Good deal.
So Alan, Mary, you want
We have no revenue source though. I mean, but
Right.
Creole either.
well, Cameron's gonna get a pretty good boost in a few years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that can help all the way down.
that's help,
And
and
everyone would
that
really
be set up to
benefit
help
from
the
that.
whole lower part of the parish.
And I think Cameron was talking at one time about needing another well maybe or something. We got good water coming from the east that we can bring here,
Yeah,
you
we
know.
could help do that on that.
You know, we got mains open over there. Logan's gotta run, places open all the time. Grand Chenier has places open to try to get the
Chemical through the
chemical
line.
levels of them, the chlorine levels up, you know, so I think it's a win-win situation. So, if anybody else, I forgot to ask if anybody has any cards. I see we got a couple of them. If anybody would want to address the jury with anything. Sheriff has one signed. If there's anybody from Holly Beach that want to talk about anything?
Nobody showed.
Nobody showed up? Okay.
They emailed yesterday and said they didn't have anybody
Okay.
to come, so.
Y'all good with, we ready to move on as far as?
Can I
We
address
got-
you about that, since I know it, I mean, so you can have time to think about the Holly
Okay.
Beach issue, and I think that's why the sheriff is here.
Okay.
So, the sheriff's here, the Beachfront Development Board, the Holly Beach side over there, had inquired about, amending your ordinance to allow vehicles to drive on the Holly Beach area. Right now, vehicles can drive on the beach except for like a half mile at each side of Holly Beach. That's off limits. That was done at the request of the Holly Beach community some years ago, and for safety reasons, because you have a lot of population. People have camps there on the beach and didn't want any traffic. Well, they've changed their minds. And they've asked to allow traffic. Now, there's a speed limit, but to allow traffic on the beach in that area, which would mean just changing your ordinance to delete that paragraph, which is a simple thing to do legislatively, that you have the authority to do that. I called the sheriff, so he maybe if he wanted to have any input just about that safety issue. There is an issue of safety if you start putting vehicles on the beach area where you have population, what that may cause and the safety issues. I can't address that, but I just said if the sheriff had concerns, I just let him know to be here to address that if you have any questions. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me. There's not a decision to be made. The board's not here. I told the board if they wanted changes or they wanted something, they needed to be here to ask you. I would just provide the legal input.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tom, for that. Tom had called me and told me that they would be here. They hadn't showed up. I see Sonny McGee's not here. Many of you are veteran police jury members, have been reelected, and y'all know why this ordinance came about. Last year, I got a call from one of our constituents that there was four-wheelers running all over the beach, up on the blacktop, running stop signs and speeding. I told them we'd take care of it, and it was one of the big holidays, either Memorial Day or July the 4th, and we went out there and shut them down, and we wrote tickets. They did have some signs up, but not the signs that they used to have, but we wrote tickets for that. And we did not allow the four-wheelers on the beach because there was that ordinance in place. Then the beach committee, one of the guys on the beach committee called me up and asked me about that, if there was an ordinance. I told him there was. Very cordial. Both people that stood on different sides of the fence, very cordial, just asking questions. Looked up the ordinance for him, read it to him. He said, okay. They came and met me at my office, some of the beach committee, and told me some of the things they were looking at, because you have a new beach committee over there, most of them are. And I told them they would need to address that with the police jury if they want to change anything. They understood that, and that's where we are today. I want to ask you today in your consideration, let's don't move backwards. Let's move forwards. The problem with the four-wheelers, particularly on the beach, is they were speeding. They do get on the dunes. They do get up on the blacktop. They have little ones riding those four-wheelers, and we know personally, our constituents, we've lost people and people's been injured by people too young riding on the four-wheelers. But anyway, it's going to be a problem for law enforcement. We will be out there. We will be writing working the wrecks. We will be arresting DWIs on the four-wheelers and whatever we need to do. You're not going to catch them all, but we are trying to form that beach committee. I've ordered a couple of sea-doos to help drowning people. We've almost lost a couple of deputies going out there trying to get drowning people with no equipment, so we got that equipment coming in when we get them. But the four-wheelers on the beach in front of the camps, the reason that y'all made that ordinance was the people in the camps was complaining about the four-wheelers running back and forth. You can't have a peaceful day out on the beach with the four-wheelers running back and forth all the time. You can go to Galveston, you can go to Florida, you can go to Alabama, you can go to the Caribbean. There's no vehicles on the beach. And last time I was in Florida was last summer. There was no law enforcement out there either because there was no problems. We have vehicles on the beach in Cameron Parish, and we're going to have it. You know, that's the way that the people in the police jury has decided. This area right here that the DA has talked about in front of the camps in Holly Beach, you can't ride them. And then you can't ride them over there in no vehicles on the improved area to the east of the beach, the improved area that y'all had. And then where the beach narrows, where the rocks are, where the fence was built and the revetment was built, well, you're not supposed to have four-wheelers way out there either, but you can ride them from where the houses are to that area on the west end of the beach. So I'm asking you just to leave it like that because you made it like that a while back for a reason, you know. They're on the west Mays Beach, west of Mays Beach. People come out there from Texas with their four-wheelers, and they ride the dunes. When we get out there, of course, they don't do that. When we go out there that's why I bought 4-wheel drive trucks, and I bought 2 buggies, and I'm fixing to have to buy 2 more. And when we're out there, they don't do that, but because we allow them to do that, and then there are people that come down that abuse it. And they don't come down in the 4-wheelers and the razors to drive 10 miles an hour. A lot of these people buy these things and they don't have nowhere to ride them, anywhere to ride them. So they come to the beach because they're allowed to ride them there. So that's the problems we have, and we're going to work through, and we're going to enforce that. You have areas that they can ride them on the beach, and we'll be watching those areas because that's the parish ordinances. I'm just asking you not to change the one that's in place because you put that there for a reason. And these people on the beach committee, they have a reason. They're going to ask you to change it because they rent to some of their people that come down just to ride 4-wheelers. They come and told me that. And that's why I wouldn't be in your position. That's why I told you when I retire, you don't have to worry about me running for police jury. But anyway, thanks a lot, y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff. Anybody got anything on that?
No, but
That's just vehicles though, not, they want vehicles on the beach or they want? Oh, okay.
4-wheelers and all.
All
And
unlicensed.
that is just, in the perfect world, you allow families to go and ride slow on the beach, but you've got to make a law for that. And then, but that law also applies to them people that got them racing bikes that want to go out there and tear it up. So, I understand what they want, but you can't have both.
What y'all doing on Rutherford? What they do on Rutherford?
Oh, we ride, you ride them. Law
But you're not
enforcement's out
having
there, the sheriff has
problems.
people out there.
You're not having them kind of problems out there?
Well, since the storm, I don't think we had too many
People
back like they were when before the storm, and the beach was nice out there. And now we got a lot of, since it's washed, we got the rocks, but hopefully it'll fill back in. There's a lot of old debris in that out there now that was from,
It's just like the sheriff said,
Camps from years ago.
you allow them, there, eventually it's gonna be somebody come in there and wanna run down everything.
and we don't have near the houses they have like they got over there. Holly Beach. Doc, you would want to address the jury?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess both mics are live. Yeah, let me speak to you as the coroner, and I've been getting a lot of phone calls on this new CDC 5-day guideline issue, and I want to sort of clarify a few points on it. If you've been following the papers, et cetera, it's been severely criticized. In fact, the AMA has basically come out short of condemning this CDC 5-day criteria. What the CDC is basically saying, if you're asymptomatic or improved symptoms, after 5 days of isolation, you can return to work. Well, first of all, the problem is, number one, 1/3 of those patients after 5 days will still be infectious. So to return them to work after 5 days, we're dealing with an infectious individual, number one. Number two, the CDC uses the terminology well-fitting masks. Those people that are to return to work after 5 days need to have a well-fitting mask. Well, in my medical opinion, there's only one well-fitting mask the community can use, and that's a 95 respirator. Those are very highly effective. Anything short of that is useless in terms of preventing disease spread. Number three, the CDC is not requiring testing for these people after 5 days. It's on a voluntary basis. So if you feel like you want to get tested after 5 days to see if you still have the virus, you can. You don't have to. The other issue is that most of our infections now appear to be Omicron. Omicron is very highly contagious compared to Alpha and Delta. The test we're using now, the point-of-care test, where the antigen rapid antigen test, the data is looking as if it's not that good to detect Omicron. For Alpha and Delta, they were designed to detect those. So even if someone wants to test themselves, unless they go through the best test is called the PCR test, and that's going to have to be done through a hospital lab, send-out lab. So there's just an issue if we accept this 5-day criteria. I think we need to be cautious because I don't think it works. And my vote is, and my recommendations when people call me and ask, I said, just go back 10 days. Just go back to the original CDC guidelines. I'll say, too, as a corollary, I've not signed a death certificate for COVID on anyone that's been vaccinated. The death certificates I'm signing for COVID-related deaths are in individuals who have not been vaccinated. So what's the story here? Bottom line, don't fear the vaccine, fear the virus. And if anyone has any further questions, just give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Anything else, B, or just review the agenda? I don't see.
You guys wanna?
I do have a question. I see Wendy's here. Where we at with the Grand Lake Rec Center? What we doing with the Grand Lake Rec Center right now? Nothing?
Not anything at this moment. We're still working through stuff with FEMA and some plans.
We got a timeline on this? 10 years?
Tremaine and I talked the other day, and I gave him some questions and stuff that I needed, and we've been working on getting that stuff answered for them.
Okay, what about our fire station? What's the deal with it?
Which one?
All of them.
We
Was
Lake,
it new?
Grand Lake.
On the island, I
Big
guess.
Lake.
Okay, you want-
Big Lake, the fire board opted to use insurance money and not use FEMA funds. So the fire board is getting a quote for a metal building to be put back in Big Lake. And so that's what the fire board's working on right now. For the one in Grand Lake, it is going through the schematic design with our architects. And so as soon as the schematic design and the cost estimates available, we'll present it to you guys to see if you want to give a notice to proceed into construction documents or if you just want to keep it as a schematic design. Now, for the Grand Lake Rec, I will touch on that. The biggest holdup is we are trying to get FEMA to give us a replacement cost instead of a repair cost. So if we would have just accepted the first adjustment from FEMA and we could have repaired everything, then you would just have an old building with fresh paint. And what we were trying to do is to get FEMA to go look at both of the buildings and say, look, it's for the same amount of money that we could just repair this, we can give you replacement costs and you can build a brand new facility right there on the same footprint. And so that's what's going through FEMA review, and I know it's lengthy, but we're hoping that it's gonna be worth it, because if we can get that replacement cost, then we can build something new for the people in Grand Lake instead of keep replacing and repairing these old buildings. So that's the holdup right now.
Okay.
Looks like everything's held up everywhere. Even
Well, I
Even
understand.
the churches.
Well, I understand how FEMA works, but, you know, if there's any kind of way we can push from our point of view, FEMA to come across with some answers for us, you know?
It's going through all of the cost analysis. I mean, everything has been submitted to FEMA, but it has to go through their environmental review,
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure it has to go through a cost analysis to see what the cost to repair versus the cost to replace would be. I mean, it has to go through so many different reviews. There's like 6 different reviews, and they all have to sign off on it. And the way FEMA works, they have so many days, it sits in their queue for so many days before they have to respond to it. It has to go through 6 different levels. So that's
What
what
about
we are pushing, but
What about our insurance policy? We pay insurance out of our butt for all this
we're
stuff.
having a lot of problems with our insurance, and that's something that perhaps we're gonna have to get Tom involved in. We've talked to him a little bit initially just to give a letter, but our insurance companies are pushing back on us because we got an initial payment, which wasn't the full amount even for our adjustment. We received $6 million, but their adjustment schedule is somewhere over $7.5 million. So they still have not even given us the $1.5 million that they owe us according to their own adjustments. And so what we're doing, we have replacement costs. So we have our architects, they identify the scope of work. we submitted it to our insurance company. They didn't respond to it. So we've actually bid out a few projects and submitted the bid packet, the bids, proof that we accepted the lowest bid, sent that to the insurance company, and we received the first comment on the Grand Chenier Library a few days ago that said that it's ridiculous that the bids came in that much. We understand that Cameron is a remote location, and it's hard to get supplies and workforce, but there's no reason why the cost to repair that building is the cost that it is, and are refusing to pay the difference.
Yeah, they're not gonna pay nothing till you go to court.
So,
You're gonna say we need to go legal with it.
Come on up.
We
Mr.
don't need to
Allen.
wait no longer, Tom. Been over a year.
Yeah, this is a short agenda. I didn't think I had much to say this morning. But it is something that, and I think your staff would be the best position to say when to say enough's enough. And at that point, I would suggest that we hire legal counsel. It would be a contingency fee, so you're not paying an hourly fee. This, your wind insurance carrier would be subject to penalties and attorney's fees, which I think are justified, because admitted, they owe us money and still won't even pay us the money that they say they owe us.
Yeah.
The pros and cons of making that decision is if you decide to file a lawsuit, then probably any chance of getting a cash flow or will probably stop, and you will not get any money until the litigation is resolved. That's just how litigation works. As opposed to if you do not file the lawsuit, there's a chance that we might get, at least we can have dialogue and try to get money. But from what I'm seeing in the many, many emails from Wendy, I think, in my opinion, it's time to make that decision. You don't have to make it today. You can think about it between now and the next meeting. Seriously think about pursuing litigation against the wind insurer because of their failure to comply with their good faith duties and obligations and the fiduciary duties that they owe to this parish for all the money we.
Well, I think we went far and beyond. We done bidded them out. We done got an architect to send it to them. It's kind of hard for them to fight that,
I agree. Look, homeowners are dealing with the same issue.
Mhm.
It's costing what it costs. We don't make up these bills or these expenses or these, we don't. We get it from the contractors who will be supplying the labor and materials, but yet they're sitting in an office in Atlanta, Chicago, wherever, saying, well, no, that's not reasonable. I was about to use some French there, but the point is that I think your staff has gone beyond and trying, and spending way too much time trying to convince this insurance company to pay us what they say they owe us, and that we think they owe us a lot more. But I think that you think about it. A decision doesn't need to be, but it does, I think, need to be made within.
Well, I thought about it long enough. I think we need to move forward today, not wait another month.
How many buildings does it consist of? How many,
how many?
what's involved in that?
Without the fire stations, there's, I think it's 74, and with the fire stations, a little over 8.
You're
How
talking
many?
about just about
80.
every recreation
building we have.
center
Wow.
in the parish. Hackberry Recreation Center, Thompson Bayou Recreation Center.
Yeah, to some degree, you have either replace or repair. Some, our DA office and tax, doesn't have the degree that the courthouse had, or, so it's all a matter of degree, but overall, it's a lot of money.
Is there certain ones we could take out of
Yes.
tying up
Yes.
and move forward for as legal
Why would you
with
want to
some
do
of
that?
them?
The example of the Grand Chenier Library that Katie gave you a minute ago, that was a response from a letter that Tom sent on October the 20th. And we were waiting all this time for a response. And I finally emailed them back before Christmas and said, this is ridiculous. How long does it take you to go through these probable costs and look at the evaluations and the plans or the bids that we have sent out for a job that we've already done and that we're paying for. We need our money, y'all are not paying us. And then we get this response along with the higher up person, and so that was a conversation I was gonna have with Tom today before.
We,
y'all asked.
probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I sent an email that we had a error in the email address, but it got to the adjusters, the our immediate adjuster and the supervisor that I wanted to meet, or we wanted to meet with them, to meet with me to have these discussions so I could get an idea and gauge where the adjusters were and their attitude about providing us reasonable funds. And it took them 2 months to even acknowledge they got the email. Now, there was an error, but by the time they acknowledged, they said, oh, you made a mistake in one of the address, whatever. But they knew, but yet they've not. Now we're going on 4 months.
Her response was, if you put in the reference Cameron Parish hurricane and a number, we would read your email first. That was her response.
Anyway,
Well, I guess
it answered your question. I don't think, we can't, it probably wouldn't, if this is what you're thinking, we can't file a suit saying we're only filing suit on these 50 buildings and these other 20, we're going to continue to work. It's kind of an all or nothing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, how many of these buildings can we move forward with and still follow the lawsuit?
So that's a cash flow issue. So the question becomes, if we file a lawsuit, we know we're not going to get any money from the insurance company for some period of time. What do we have in reserves and savings, so to speak, to fund fire and ambulance? That's
gonna be
rec
my question
districts
to
might have
the
to,
staff.
recreation community center might just have to wait a little while, but we need fire and ambulance. And do we have enough money to do that?
Like the library, they started fixing their own stuff with their fund, and they, they're trying to wait for the money to come back. So, I mean.
We gotta do that because I was driving here this morning and all of a sudden, I see a fire truck coming out of somebody's house, lights on, coming down the road. I was like, well, there's the fire chief. He's keeping the fire truck at his house. Well, we don't have no shed to put it in.
Yeah.
So, at least for the fire and, well, I don't know about the ambulance, but we don't have nothing to do that. But
It depends what district.
Well, some districts have the ability to fund library. I know that maybe the ambulance number 2 could probably fund their repair and then, get reimbursed down the line. It's probably your fire districts do not. You're gonna have to fund that, and the question is, do we have the cash flow or reserves to build these fire stations and then get our money back at the end of the litigation?
Yeah, we need to try to figure out that. And
How
see
much
what
money
it
have we
actually
received?
is.
When's the last time we got a payment from insurance?
Wendy? Did we get any supplemental for wind,
October, September?
like an actual check?
Yeah, we actual check in the mail in September.
And are they telling us that they're sending some more soon? Or are we just dead in the
They
water?
just keep giving us cause what it is, it's a blanket policy. So they have a list of buildings, and then they just give us, this is your premium for all these buildings. And then with the staff of our Louisiana companies, they go in and they assess an amount, like an allocation based off the total premium. I don't really know what formula they use, but Louisiana companies does that. So that could be an issue with the lawsuit, because if you're gonna sue them, you're suing them, everything on that schedule is included. You can't just pick and choose which buildings you're gonna sue from.
Well, what
And
I'm
the
saying
same
is,
thing-
we hadn't received anything since October.
Right. And
We have
so
anything coming? Do we
what
know
they
that
do is they give us the schedule, and they say, okay, your schedule for all your buildings has changed from, instead of 6 million, now we think we owe you 6.5 million. And so they just keep giving us updated schedules. But
Right.
They don't give
But
us
you're not
the
getting a
cash
check.
to go with it. Right. The last time we received a check, she said was
So,
October.
so we're not getting any money. How long do we wait and let them, hopefully they send us money next month? What about next month? What about next month? Where do we
So,
stop?
Another thing, which I guess it shouldn't matter, but in February is when our renewals come up for our property insurance. So, that's a decision. If you decide that you don't wanna do business with these insurance companies anymore, then you tell Logan from Lieutenant Company, say, look, do not give us any premiums or any, options for this company. But if memory serves me, I wanna say they're the only one that bid last February. We had to stay with Amrit, that they were called Amrit.
They were the lowest.
So says Logan.
Yeah,
They were
we
the
don't know.
lowest.
maybe we need to find somebody else to go through besides
So in
Logan.
February, that comes up
I've been
for
saying
a
that for
vote.
years.
What
Now,
about
Lindy does
Travelers?
have a meeting with Logan
On Tuesday.
on Tuesday.
I'm pretty sure there's other agents out there can find us insurance.
There, so, the way that works is that what we expect Logan to do is he shops to the market. You know, it's like our grocery shopping, Albertsons, Kroger's, Winn-Dixie, Market Basket, and he gets all the quotes back. Now, if you want to get a different agent to do the quote, that different agent's basically gonna be shopping from the same carriers, the same stores. But that different agent may have a different carrier, more carriers. But for that agent to shop, you have to give them some letter of authority, I forget what they call
If you
it.
got more than one.
Yeah, that's right. So if you have Logan out there shopping and you get another agent shopping, that other agent now needs your authority to do it in some form. And we went through that some years ago when somebody else was trying to get our business and, anyway, so you can do that. I mean, it doesn't, I do it personally. I've learned, insurance companies have no loyalty, so why should I? It's all about money.
If you do get two agents looking at
I did that last time I was here.
Yeah. So, again, that's a separate
So,
decision.
I think what you were talking about is, I think it's called the agent of record.
Right,
And
agents
you
of
do
recommendation.
officially give him that, and we need to look back through our minutes and see when that would expire.
What we did last
Because
time,
once you
Katie,
give it to him, once you give it to Logan, then no one else can
Right.
give you
Right.
any.
the insurance company won't give it to two people.
Right.
So what we did last time, we let Logan pick 3 or 4, and we let the other agency pick 3 or 4, and then they went at it like that.
Okay.
And that way,
And that's a
Yeah.
conversation maybe we have with Logan, next week about,
Yeah.
hey,
you know,
drop the insurance.
I think let him know the police jury's interested in what are his 3 or 4 or 5 carriers, and he can itemize and tell us exactly who those are. We give him authority for those that and then we go to another agent and say, hey, agent, here are the 5 that Logan has, you go to the rest of the world.
Right.
That'll work.
Competition's always good.
Yeah. Yep. On the payment deal, October, when was the one before that? Or was that the first one?
No, sir, that was a payment for Delta, and before that was
This,
March.
what I, as we're sitting here talking and I'm getting a feel for your thoughts of enough's enough, we've given them enough time, is that maybe, and like you did for your coastal cases, you invited law firms to come in and give proposals of, their experience, what they're doing, because there are some law firms that are handling these types of claims.
Specialized.
I know that some are handling for the school board and for the sheriff's office. I just visited with Tony Mancuso the other day, because he doesn't have a person in any of his jails. They're still under repair, and his inmates are all over the state. So there are some law firms that have some unique special skills in dealing with these claims, have the personnel to do it, because it is a large claim. But because of the volume and the amount of money and the potential for attorney's fees and penalties, I think some of these firms would be interested. And so maybe we invite them to the next meeting, and you make a decision the next meeting to hire somebody, and you can interview them just like, again, in executive session, talk to each of them, their questions, your concerns, and then you come out of the executive session and hire one of them to pursue litigation. Now, pursuing the litigation may be that they contact the adjuster and say, look, I've been retained, are we gonna settle this, or are we gonna fight about it?
Exactly.
And if we can't get a resolution, or some path towards a resolution, or a path towards payments, then we're gonna have to file suit and just get after it.
Tom, is there a deal about a year? Do you only have a year to file suit?
No, under insurance contracts are 10 years, so you got, yeah.
Okay.
Unless
You
there's
have a year to file damages.
Huh?
You have a year to identify damages and everything.
Yeah, just contractually, you have to report the claim within, you gotta notify them of the claim. Obviously, they knew we had a hurricane. I mean, that's not an issue. They know we have a claim, they've investigated the claim, they've adjusted the claim. Now it's a matter of
I don't know why,
paying.
but the ones we hired from a house, they wanted her and file it before the year was up.
I think there was a question about penalties and attorney's fees being a kind of like an accident case. You have 1 year if somebody does something wrong to you, and the question was, are the penalties and attorney's fees like a wrongful act that requires a 1 year limitation?
I got you.
I
That's
think
what it
the
was.
decision is, or the, I haven't researched this, but what I understand from talking to lawyers is that penalties and attorney's fees are ancillary to your contract, and it has a longer than a 1 year term. So you still have time to
Okay.
file your lawsuit and ask for attorney's fees and costs at the bottom line.
So Katie, you gonna set us up with some, lawyers for next month?
Yes, sir.
I'll get with her. I know the
Yeah.
4 or 5 firms in Lake Charles that are handling the majority of these claims, and we'll invite them, and if they're interested, great. If they're not, then they don't show up. And then you make a decision. Sound good?
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
Wonderful. All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Johnson.
sir. Winnie, you had something else, sir?
I was just gonna say, what Tom's talking about is wind. All of our flood issues that we're having, we've turned over to Ms. Kathleen with Clay Higgins's office to see if we can get our flood adjuster.
So we still have a report? Or
We are
adjustment?
still waiting for them to come out and readjust multiple locations. And so Tom introduced me to Ms. Kathleen and
Elizabeth.
suggested that we.
Elizabeth.
Huh?
Elizabeth.
Did I say Elizabeth? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Elizabeth.
Just a coincidence, I was meeting with a gentleman named Sonny Daigle who worked for Senator Kennedy yesterday, and I told him exactly, I wasn't sure where y'all were in y'all's conversations, so anyway, I'll report back to him that y'all are trying to address, because
And you were copied on that email that I sent to her, so you can forward that to me.
your flood policy is really federally FEMA driven, and they are not subject to penalties and attorney's fees. So you have no leverage. I mean, they owe what they owe. And they have been very slow in providing us an initial report and now supplement report, which is another just cash flow. But you don't gain, you have no leverage in that litigation because you have no penalty, you have no hammer, you have no penalties and attorney's fees. So ultimately, they just owe what they owe. And so the only leverage we have is political by getting, our congressmen or senators involved, and there's a process for them to do that. So that's why we've involved Elizabeth and Senator and Congressman Higgins' office to try to help us to get them the flood adjusters to help us get,
Usually flood plays pretty good. I don't understand why they.
Yeah.
Don't know.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Appreciate it, Tom. Y'all looked at y'all's agendas or have any questions? Anything else? Anybody else? Or-
You wanna acknowledge who our newest retiree is?
She's gone?
She's here, isn't she? Miss
We ain't
Emily,
got
you
one
wanna
yet.
stand up?
When's her date? When's the?
This will be her last police jury meeting. Miss Emily
Oh.
Mock, she has worked for the police jury for 30-plus years, probably 32 officially, in February. And she has signed her retirement papers, and her last day is the 14th of January. And so you will be missed, Miss Emily, and we're very
Did
proud
you,
of you.
did you sign the paper?
Yes.
Wait, no, did you sign the paper letting her go?
Well, I'm surprised that she actually stuck around this long.
She told us
could have,
February now.
left the-
She did tell us February. Emily, you told us February.
No, I remember giving y'all a letter.
Yeah.
It said 14.
We thought we were gonna lose her in October, but she decided to stay through the end of the year and let everybody get settled, and so we greatly appreciate her, and so, I just wanted to acknowledge her, and congratulations, Miss Emily.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and we're gonna miss you.
Thank
We're gonna miss you. Shane's gonna miss you.
He's got you on speed dial, probably.
That's right.
So did you cook today?
I don't cook. It's gotta be in a box.
Never retire if you don't cook.
I don't cook.
DiGiorno pizza's pretty good.
Anything else, or?
Agenda items, any questions?
We're gonna have-
Danny, you have anything with the
We got a lot of
OEP?
change orders on here.
Yeah.
From Johnson Bayou.
Nothing? Ashley, nobody else has anything? Well, nobody else. Ms. Jeffrey?
Hey, did the,
Ms. Jeffrey's here today instead of Ms. Cindy's retired, so.
Glad to see everybody. Hello.
Hey, Ms. Jeffrey.
did the Police Jury Association dues go up? Or we always paid 96? I thought it was 85.
I don't think so.
I think
It's been 96?
Well, if nobody else has anything, we'll adjourn this meeting.
Any questions
we'll-
over the agenda items? Did y'all review?
We got add-ons?
Yeah, we have one add-on, for the Creo Waterworks to transfer the employees, Mary Canick and Logan Manuel to the police. They've been continuing their waterworks duties as well as adding on some police jury duties. if
Now, Katie, doing that, they will be here 7 to 4 or 8 to 4,
Eight
whatever?
to 4 hours, yes, sir.
It'll be a
Monday through
full-time.
Friday. Logan really is gonna probably have the flexibility to, work
he works-
as needed.
he
He's
does
gonna
stay
be
free.
a salary employee, and so that's how we're gonna treat him, that way he doesn't go over his budget. But there are times you have to work on Saturdays and Sundays, and so what he had been doing for Creo Waterworks is, making sure that he just stayed under 40 hours. So he might work only 1 or 2 hours on Monday because he had to work Saturday and Sunday. So we're gonna let him continue to be flexible in his schedule, to limit his overtime hours. But Miss Mary would be 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, so we could direct
gonna
all
move
of
her
the
in?
waterworks. Sir?
Y'all moving her in?
Yes, we have an office available for her, and so we'll just have to advertise that, she can collect any payments for Creo Waterworks at our office. And then it would probably help her out too, because when she's out of the office, we could help her collect the funds if someone shows up to pay their water bill.
Now she got to drive further.
Well, we
Mary
can
and
call
Logan, y'all all right with that? I mean, everything's good to go?
Now, will Logan be able to assist Cameron sometime, I guess, and if they need any help with the water system?
I think he does.
Maybe
Or does
already,
already,
but
you know.
absolutely.
He's a parish employee,
So he'll be able
and
to-
that's what
I
we
mean,
do.
he's a
Parish
parish
flag?
employee, so he'll
Yeah, He's a
be,
parish employee, and that's what we do.
Oh, Logan,
yeah.
okay.
We help wherever we need it.
Thank y'all then. Anybody else? Anything else? All right, now, meeting adjourned till 2 o'clock.